Hi, I'm Mike Haddock, and today we're in New York City, and behind me is the unfinished cathedral called St. John's Divine. So we're going to go in and take a look at it and see the way they kind of build these cathedrals. Give you some of my opinion. You can make your own opinions up. So here we go. Over into here, we notice that this is not done. Here's what I'm going to explain to you. This is all the limestone that's done, and you could see the way they did that. And over here, this is the rough part of the stone, but this is what they used behind all that limestone. The limestone is just the covering. All the unfinished work. See where the limestone ends. Here's the granite, here's the limestone, and then they would continue out and they tooth it out. You got a kick out of when bricklayers say you can't tooth it out like that. Well, that's how they built the cathedrals.
Why this is important and how it connects to ancient structures such as the building of a pyramid is because essentially, or not even essentially, just purely, the techniques have not really changed over time. What we have is on the right hand side we still see the interior stones, which are not faced or dressed, they're roughly cut, and on the left we see the fine worked stone, the facing, or as in the pyramid's case, the casing stones, which are dressed, and they are much more attention, much more detail is given to them. And so whether it's stone wall, well, stone in construction, this was the technique used by masons throughout history. However, there is one important point, and some, having heard a lot of it, impossible, lost ancient high technology, mortarless construction, precisely laid, precision fits, well, that's the purpose of this video. But they used mortar at St. John Divine. This has been a standard technique. Well, they used mortar at the pyramids, not just one. The standard technique for building the pyramids was the same. Finely dressed casing stones on the outside, and in the pyramids case, very rough rubble, what's described as junk in the masonry trade, on the interior, and they used mortar. They used a gypsum mortar and lots of it. So in that sense, you could define it as plaster, or you could maybe call it concrete of a form, but definitely the Egyptians were using mortar, plaster, or even call it concrete, and this technique exactly is what we're going to see here can be found throughout the pyramids and other major temples in Egypt.
Now this is a modern example. What they did is build above it. There's the old piece. Yeah, this is easy. This is easy to face. So here's an example where they there's the original stones. See, that's the original stones going down. This is an example of how they did it. They just faced the stone, they shoved it in it, put the next stone on top, and filled in behind it. Almost any type of stone you pick up along the pyramids fell off of the pyramids. And if you rub it back and forth, you can make it as smooth as you want just with another piece of limestone. It's not really a big deal to do that. Granite, see how they're getting smooth surfaces already? Granite's a different idea. The limestone, you can almost do anything with it as far as carving goes. So we're looking at the stones. The pyramid started way down here. What I want you to see is that's a straight row. Straight row going right across. Everything's a straight row. And then they just filled in behind it. The base of the Great Pyramid, it's all eroded. But you're going to notice they all got mortar between them. Don't let them tell you they put a razor blade between them. It's all filled with mortar. See it? They're all filled all the way up. You could see them. They got mortar between them.
So it looks like a lot of the bigger stones are on the bottom, and as they went up, the stones got smaller.
Yes, they did.
You know, maybe half the size.
Half the size, and smaller and smaller.
Okay, so it looks to me like what they did is they dug down, kind of like the guy did in the Coral Castle down in Florida. They dug down on each side till they hit a seam, and then they popped the stone out.
And I don't see no difference in the way they built stuff all the way up to the 1940s. You get down to bedrock, put your little mortar thing down, put the stone on top, put the mortar on, put the stone on top, put the mortar on, put the stone on top, you interlock them and you're done.
You see this? I'm in the quarry. You can see where they quarried all the stones out of here. And this was for the interior of the pyramid. Now on the facade, they used a different type of stone that went up. They put that on first, and then they filled in the back with junk, and then they just kept going. So this is still the bedrock in the corner of Cafe, the Pyramid of Cafe. And you could see they went all the way up till they ran out, and then they started filling it in with other stone, smaller pieces.
Now this pyramid, why don't you look in here? All these stones are different sizes. It's all junk. You make the outside look good, you fill it in with anything you got. Now when you're looking at this pyramid, as you go up, those stones get smaller and smaller and smaller. But what they did was they put the capstones all the way around first, and it just filled in.
Here is the Caffrey Valley Temple. We have those large granite blocks which make up the lintels and the columns, and this finely dressed, finely fitted granite casing stones. Now, Bormasund Fortress for one, but the same construction technique. So there we see the exterior, it is not formed, it's rubble, lots of mortar used again throughout this, and you can get from this view as the main entrance, and what we have is plainly visible mortar throughout. You can see it in other photos, of course, as well. And then we have finely cut and dressed facing stones made of granite with a roughly cut limestone backing stones or walls. Exactly the same technique used throughout the history of masonry, as well as we saw in the beginning with the St. John the Divine Cathedral in New York.
And we're walking away from that, looking at these stones. They all got mortar between them. Don't let them fool you. And over here they got some original stones too. So this is my brother Jeff, and the way we see it, the way they built these pyramids, they put the outside ring around first, and then they filled the middle in with junk. And you can see it. You agree with me?
I agree with you 100%. That's the way we still do it today.
That's the way we do it today.
You build something out of all stone, you use the good stone on the outside, and then fill it in.
Right.
As you go.
That's the way they built the castles and everything. Use all the good stuff on the outside, and then you fill it in with all the stuff that ain't no good. And there's a lot of examples we're going to see about that. One of those pyramids of McCoffey, that's granite. You put it here, and then you fill it all in with limestone to make it all fit. This goes first, that goes second. Keep it all the same level. Here's another thing to look at. This is the outside of the McCarthy. Yeah, this is the outside. Look, these aren't straight, these angles. They put anything that fits. See it? How it fits, that fits, that fits. And over here, they were doing this smooth and they were starting to work it here. And the job stopped for some reason. Maybe they ran out of money, I don't know. But that's how that was done. This was put in first, and then they start beating on it because they didn't have time to do the whole thing. Here and take a look at these stones that go along this pyramid. Now we're looking at this granite. As you can see, this went on first. And then the idea was to cut it down once it was done.
That's what I think.
Yeah, exactly.
It's that rose-colored granite.
Yep.
It looks like they put the stones in and then they cut it.
And then they cut it. Yep.
Right in here where the entranceway is.
Right. They weren't worried about the bottom because it was granite. When they did the other stuff,
Looks like they pounded it in place.
that's it. I'm going to see how they were placed. Like I say, these were placed before, and then they filled in behind them. And I think that's as perfect example as you can see. They put it in, they filled in behind them this way. That's all they did. That's what it looks like. Slope looking down.
So all the granite you see right here, and here's part of it, went up 16 meters on this pyramid. And what they did is they came in later on and they ripped it off and they split it into chunks and they used it somewhere.
We're going to look at the red pyramid. It's the first true pyramid, and it was built out of red limestone. So we're going to walk up to the corner of this and take a look at it. It's all weather beaten. This is a red limestone. You could see it. And the same thing. They have mortar between them. And we're walking up into this area where I guess some of the original stones are. Now here's some of the original stones from the red pyramid. This is the limestone that they did it with. And you can see, like I told you, this goes first, then butt everything up against it. You can fill it with junk if you want, but that's the casing, then you fill it in. Hi, I'm Mike Haddock, and today we're going to visit the Bent Pyramid in Egypt. Okay, we're walking up to the Bent Pyramid, and we're going to take a look at the casing stones on the outside first. We're looking at the Bent Pyramid, and you can see the outer casing. The outer casing went first, and then they filled in behind it. You can see all the way up in there. And we're going to go up in here.
Yeah, look at the casing.
Yep.
So
Casing went in first, then they filled in behind it. This goes in towards the center of the pyramid. It's not flat right through like the other pyramids. This was their first attempt. But you could see they put the casing stone on first, and then they butt the other stone against it. All these casing stones are not the same. They're all different. I'm going to give you a couple examples. And you go up here, you can see right there where they pieced. You can see up here with the finger where they pieced those pieces together. So all these stones weren't the same. They built it as it went. These stones really are not as big as everybody claims they are. There's my brother standing up against them.
I'm just looking, there's lime in between them, lime and mud.
Lime and mud, yeah.
They did all the old barns and everything.
Yeah, that's all.
The pyramids did have a skin of fine stone, but for the overwhelming bulk of it, the interior, not the skin, but all of it is built like this. Rough hewn blocks, rubble you would call it, full, absolutely full of mortar. No different from the way things still work today, or masons are still working, or traditionally still work. So Egypt is defined by mortar and what Mike Haddock masons call junk or rubble construction. That's the reality of the situation. And so when it comes again now to lost ancient high technology, something you will not find in any of the lost civilization megaliths is a large open room. That's something that was only developed later. So there's often said there was a regression in technology. Quite the opposite. The technology advanced through domes such as the Pantheon, Hagia Sophia, or the Blue Mosque in Istanbul, Constantinople. And when we come to buildings with very thin walls, vaulted ceilings, and buttress, and the volume doesn't count compared to the pyramids, but because it's hollow. And so so take a bunch of blocks, pile them up into a pyramid. It's very easy. Now take a bunch of blocks and make a hollow pyramid of them. So the megalith master, lost high technology people couldn't build a large open room with they were still using the old-fashioned lintel construction. Amazing work, fantastic work, no doubt, but this thing of regression and we can't build these things today. Firstly, I would, if an Egyptian saw a skyscraper, I think he'd be more than impressed, and if they saw this, they'd be, like, why couldn't they never built it? So whether it's South America, Central America, any Mesopotamia, Egypt, any of the ancient builders, Greeks, not so much, the Romans started moving forward, but when we come to especially Gothic architecture and Gothic stonemasonry, it is large, hollow rooms filled with light and thin walls, not the thick wall construction with tiny little windows and small little claustrophobic rooms. High, large, wide. This was a development, this was a progression in masonry, not a regression.